What's up, Warhams? Today we're going to be reenacting a battle that I'm sure happened somewhere on Cadia during the 13th Black Crusade. And we'll be reenacting it by playing a city fight mission, or a Cities of Death mission. I don't remember what it's called. But before we get into any of the specifics, I'd like to announce my first ever giveaway. I'm going to be giving away this new on-sprue Death Corps of Krieg veteran squad from Kill Team, and it's got everything you need from transfers if you're into doing transfers, and the instructions to build it. So if you're interested in entering the giveaway, stick around to the end of the video and that's where I'll give the details on how to enter. With all that being said, let's get to Warhamming. The mission we are playing is Relief Force from Chapter Approved 2018, but we are using 9th edition rules unless they are otherwise overridden by mission-specific rules. We also thought it would be flavorful to allow unlimited deep striking for the attacker. You'll see why it's flavorful here in a minute. The mission starts off with the Defender, the Imperial Guard in this case, set up with a few units in a vital building within 12 inches of the center of the battlefield, and they have to hold on to an objective marker set up within the building until the end of the battle. Starting with the second turn, the Defender has reinforcements arriving from off the battlefield to help hold the objective marker. The game uses random battle length to determine how long the battle lasts, and at the end of the battle, whoever controls the center objective marker is the winner. Held up in the tallest building in a small sector just outside Kasser Trunch, a handful of veteran guardsmen and some heavy bolter weapons crews, led by 2nd Lieutenant Koch, stand vigil watching for any movement from the Volscani. With the Cadian line spread thin, it is of the utmost importance that this defensible observation post remains in Cadian control to slow the movements of the archenemy. Suddenly, shots ring out, slaying one of the guardsmen on duty. The veterans find their target and are ordered to take aim. Last shots and melt the fire only manage to dent the hull of the ancient vehicle. Heretic Astartes of the Night Lord's Legion burst out of the APC as Lieutenant Koch's Auspex lights up. Command, this is Lieutenant Koch in Sector 9 of the city. We have contact with Heretic Astartes and need backup and air support ASAP. Koch, we read you loud and clear. We have 7 squads headed your way. Fighting is thick all over the city, so hold on till they arrive. Don't lose control of that outpost, and pray to the Emperor they don't have jump packs. 1 squad of Warp Talons and 2 squads of Raptors fall from the sky all around the stranded Cadians. And a particularly frightening warrior with wings and claws that looks more like Warp Spawn than Astartes. After 2 more veterans are hit by bolt rounds, the squad takes cover to increase their chances of survival. But the mass reactive rounds from the bolters prove to be too powerful, killing the veterans down to their sergeant. The Heretic Astartes try to launch their offensive into the crumbling tower, but are held up by debris and obstacles. Just as command promised, reinforcements arrive from further in the city. An officer leading 3 infantry squads with flamers, backed up by some mortar crews, are the first to arrive, along with light armor support in the form of sentinels. Screaming in from the right and left, 2 glorious Vendetta gunships to provide air support as requested. Everyone is ordered to take aim at the traitors, but the Astartes ceramite armor proves to be too thick for the mortars and las guns, who are only able to bring down 1 Raptor. Lieutenant Koch has his remaining heavy bolter teams unload on the Warp Talons, killing 1. The Vendetta arriving from the right lets loose into the rear of the Heretic Rhino, obliterating it, while the other strafes the ground, slaying 3 more Warp Talons. While the squad of Warp Talons jump into the upper floors of the ruins, the Raptors on either sides of the building turn their attention to the newcomers closing in on them. Behind the advance of Raptors, more Warp Talons fly into the killing ground, ready to charge. 4 Cadians are immediately slain by bolt pistol fire. Claude Chaos Lord expertly threw a grenade into the building the mortars were taking cover in, killing a team outright. The Chaos Marines that exited the Rhino shoot plasma at the Sentinels, but were unable to penetrate their armor. The Raptors charged into the reinforcements with lightning-fast speed, but the Cadians were quick enough to react and snap some shots off at their attackers. The heretics were not affected by their overwatch, and charged through the flame and las rounds as if it were nothing. Meanwhile, the Warp Talons jumped down from the rafters to the nest of heavy bolters on the ground floor, and the newly arrived Warp Talons crash into the mortar lines, looking for blood. The mutated leader jumps into the thick of the fighting, ready to shred all in front of him. Every squad is now tied up in close combat, trying to survive against Claw and Chainsword. The squad on the right are cut down to 2 men remaining. All the crew-served weaponry is destroyed, and all that remains is small arms fire from the infantry. In the radioman's last breath, he called for an artillery strike on his position, taking out 3 Raptors. Both officers find themselves in combat with the heretic Astartes. Lieutenant Koch managed to grab one of the Warp Talons with his power fist, crushing through the ceramite armor. Despite all the carnage and the terrifying appearance of the Space Marines, only 2 of the Cadians fled the battlefield to face judgment from a commissar. The rest stood firm and held their ground. All that remains from the first wave of reinforcements is 2 officers, 4 guardsmen, a psyker, and their vehicle support. The commsman, who was the last remaining member of his squad, decided to sell his life dearly and hold up the Raptors as long as he could. Another veteran squad with plasma specialists and another infantry squad armed with a flamer entered the battlefield, readying to fire upon the enemy, while the Vendetta gunships circle overhead in the target-rich environment. Lieutenant Koch, knowing his kill with the power fist was dumb luck, stepped back from his attackers. The other officer tried to do the same, but the Warp Talons had come for him and would not show him any mercy. Sanctioned Psyker Martin, channeling the energy of the warp, shoots lightning from his staff, killing 3 Raptors. The veterans were ordered to take aim and fired supercharged plasma bolts into the Raptors, killing all but 2, who were then shot with the reactive rounds from the sergeant's bolt gun. The infantry squad set their las guns to full auto and let loose on the warp-mutated leader, severely wounding him. The Sentinels returned fire with the Chaos Marines, killing 2. Both Vendettas, zooming high overhead, were only able to kill 1 Marine. The commsman, bravely holding off the Raptors, called in an artillery strike on his position that was ineffective against the thick ceramite of the Astartes. The Warp Talon surprised Lieutenant Koch by jumping over him to rush at the Sentinels. He understood why when a squad of Chaos Space Marines burst through the wall and into the ruins. As the dust of the artillery bombardment clears, the Raptors close in on the Psyker who killed 3 of their brothers. Just when it didn't look like it could get any worse for the defenders, a ball of warp lightning appeared and outstepped mighty Terminators and the true warlord of this warband. The Raptors, intent on revenge, fired their bolt pistols at nearly point-blank range, severely wounding the Psyker. The Terminator Lord unloads his combi bolter into the sole surviving squad of the first wave, killing their sergeant. The rest of the Terminators follow his lead and unload into the remaining survivors, killing them, as well as 6 veterans, one of them being the hero with the bolt gun. The Warp Talons, not satiated for blood, crash into the new reinforcements, their claws crackling with energy. The flamer specialist of the squad was able to set one of the beasts on fire as they closed in. Wasting no time, the Warp Talons shred the squad, leaving none alive. The wounded Psyker, already injured, didn't stand a chance against the corrupted Marines. The Sentinel's armor was effective at holding back most of the attacks from the Warp Talons, but the las cannon Sentinel was still severely damaged by the attack. The veterans, knowing their attacker was a leader of this warband, called in an artillery strike on their position as they were slaughtered, leaving the monstrosity grievously wounded. Lieutenant Koch refuses to give up the building to the archenemy and stands firm, even though all of the reinforcements have been slaughtered. With the left flank collapsing like a wet paper bag in the face of the heretic Astartes, General Drayton, a tactical genius much like the Lord Castellan himself, leads 2 infantry squads up the right, shouting "Move, move, move," and running the new reinforcements toward the building. The squads, having to fight their way across the city to get to the sector, are winded and don't move as quickly as the general would like. Not one to lead from the back, he sets an example by outpacing the younger infantrymen and inspiring them to keep up. The Vendettas, flying over the lines of Chaos Marines, have no problems finding targets for their las cannons, and kill 4 Raptors during their strafing run. Lieutenant Koch, terrified by the carnage around him, can't fire straight and misses with his bolt pistol at nearly point-blank range. The Warp Talons, with no enemies nearby, fly up to one of the Vendettas, wanting to claw the pilots from their cockpits. The Raptors look to close in on the new reinforcements, but stop to help the Warp Talons on their way. The hulking Terminators, not as quick as their jump-pack-clad battle brothers, clamber their way out of the crater, closing in on the vital building. The Marines in the building shuffle around to get good firing lines on the new threat. The champion of the squad and his 2 plasma gunners incinerate Lieutenant Koch. Nothing remains except his boots. The rest of the squad unload their bolters on the sprinting infantry, killing 2. The Raptors, chainswords revving, crash into the rear of the Sentinels. The Warp Talons launching into the sky grab a hold of the Vendetta, cutting fuel lines and clawing into the cockpit, nearly destroying the flyer. The Raptors shred the soft rear armor of the Plasma Sentinel. The plasma core of the Sentinel's cannon detonates. The Raptors, D3 for 2. The one on 5 wounds for 3. Brutal. Alright, the other Sentinel on 1, it dies. Does it explode? It does! Chain reaction! Anyway, and then on the Warp Talons from the plasma explosion for 3. And then the last cannon one that exploded. It'll kill the last Raptor. Yep. D3 on the other Sentinel for 2, which kills it. Does it explode? No. Okay. And then on the Warp Talons for 1. Just the champions left. When the smoke clears, all that's left is a single Warp Talon. General Drayton, watching the situation deteriorate, continues the mad dash to the building, knowing that if they can make it in time, a larger reinforcement group will run off the heretic Astartes. He continues to lead from the front and sets a blistering pace for the infantry squads to keep. The flyers break formation, the damaged one flying toward the edge of the sector to land for repairs, while the other one slows down to provide covering fire. The damaged Vendetta managed to kill 2 Warp Talons as it accelerated off, letting the second flyer open fire on the Warp Talons. Seeing a lone Warp Talon where the Sentinels used to be, the Vendetta took aim. Into the single Warp Talon. 1 hit.
You got plenty.
Yeah, I'm gonna command reroll this. 2 hits. I need 2s to wound.
Oh.
1 wound.
5.
No! But its shots were stopped by the demonic energy surrounding the terror troop. The other las cannons hit their mark and took out 2 more Warp Talons. On a 1 and a 2, my lords win. Alright, but we keep going. High Command voxed to Drayton, telling him he must reclaim the building and not to withdraw from the sector. The Marines in the ruins, watching the 2 squads running toward the building, prepare themselves for the fight to come, while the Warp Talon chases after the burning Vendetta, not wanting an easy kill to get away. The remaining Warp Talons and their leader rush toward the advancing guardsmen, looking to shred them where they stand. The Terminators continue their plodding advance, closing the gap between them and the entrance to the building. The Warp Talons recklessly crash into the guardsmen, losing 3 to flamer fire. The Lord, letting his minions take the brunt of the defenders' fire, follows after them and blissfully slaughters all of them. Drenched in their blood, he stares down the Imperial commander. The Warp Talons kill all but 3 of the remaining guardsmen. Their situation looking bleak, they plan to sell their lives dearly, and come at the Warp Talons with everything they've got. With a flurry of bayonet jabs and the sergeant's revving chainsword, they manage to drag down one of the Warp Talons. The survivor of the Sentinel explosion cuts off a tail fin from the smoking Vendetta, sending it out of control to crash off in the distance. Between the flamer and the furious fighting of the 3 remaining Cadians, the Warp Talon loses his confidence and would rather live to fight another day. With a blast of exhaust, he leaves the battle. Shouting forwards for the Emperor, Drayton and what remains of his men burst into the building, guns blazing, while the Vendetta hovers overhead to provide covering fire. At close range, Drayton dispatches one of the Marines with a headshot from his trusty Hell pistol. The huge blasts from the Vendetta kill 2 more Marines, but the closeness of the las cannon fire unsettles the guardsmen, and their shots go wide. Following Drayton's lead, the 3 remaining infantrymen charge into the Marines. Drayton cuts down a Marine with his power sword, but the power armor is too strong for the bayonets of the guardsmen. The Marines counterstrike, the champion catching Drayton with his power fist, breaking his arm. Drayton blocks his command.
We've retaken the building. Are the reinforcements here yet?
Now you roll, and then on a 4-up, the game continues. It goes.
Negative, General. Hold on just a few more minutes.
Drayton's heart sinks. It'll take a miracle to hold on that long. The remaining jump troops crash into the building and waste no time trying to finish off the survivors. Drayton's refractor field just barely saves him from a killing strike. As he looks over, he sees the rest of the squad cut down by the Chaos Lord. As they go down, he knows the situation is hopeless and calls an artillery strike on his position with the Radioman's Voxcaster. The Earthshaker rounds land all around them, but none strike the warriors inside the building. During the chaos of the artillery strike, the injured General Drayton cut down the last Warp Talon, leaving himself open to be crushed by the Sergeant's power fist. When the smoke clears, the Vendetta pilot sees Drayton's limp body being held like a trophy. He voxes to command to call off the reinforcements because the building is lost, and flies off to help in another sector of the city. Well, that was a great game and a lot of fun to play. If it had ended on turn 5, the Night Lords would have won. If it ended on turn 6, the Imperial Guard would have won. And I'm just happy with how it turned out. It was a lot of fun. But now on to what you've been waiting for. There will be 4 ways to enter. You can subscribe to the channel and comment Astra Militarum on this video. You can follow me on Instagram, and you can tag a friend in the post that I'll make over there about this giveaway. I will announce the winner on a community post and an Instagram post, and you can message me either on Instagram or email me if I draw you as the winner. And if I don't hear back from the person I draw, then I'll redraw after 10 days.